Within the windowless Pentagon corridors, the air feels heavier at 3. This is the hour of the strategist's nightmare, where cold data replaces optimistic briefings. The maps displayed on high-resolution screens across the war room tell a story of shrinking influence. For decades, the United States projected power through the shadow of the wing, but that shadow is flickering. The era of unchallenged stealth is ending. Intelligence dossiers reveal a chilling reality. The Russian S-400 and S-500 platforms, paired with the sprawling Chinese anti-access area denial envelopes, have turned the Pacific into a no-go zone for conventional assets. This is the true era of vulnerability. The sophisticated sensor mesh of the Dragon's Breath now scans for the specific signatures we once thought were invisible, turning the sky into a lethal grid of electronic eyes. At Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, the home of the B-2 Spirit, a crisis has emerged known as the Whiteman paradox. The B-2 remains a marvel of engineering, a curved obsidian blade designed for a different century. However, as adversaries develop low-frequency radars and multi-static detection systems, even this legendary ghost is becoming visible to the modern hunter. To maintain global dominance, the status quo requires more than just a better airplane. It requires a shift in the physics of concealment. The realization hit the Global Strike Command like a physical blow. If the current fleet cannot penetrate the most defended airspace on Earth, the American nuclear triad loses its most flexible leg. Global order rests on the belief that there is nowhere the US cannot reach, and that belief is currently under siege. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. This strategic necessity birthed the $70 billion mandate. It is a figure, a price tag that buys more than just aluminum and carbon fiber. At approximately $700 million per airframe, the B-21 Raider is criticized by those looking at the ledger, yet to the Pentagon, it is a bargain. Compared to the catastrophic economic collapse that would follow the loss of the global status quo, $70 billion is a small insurance premium for absolute power. This is not just a project, it is a special access program of the highest classification, a deep secret held so tightly that its true capabilities exist only in the minds of a few hundred people and the encrypted servers of the digital twin environments. The B-21 Raider, the Ghost, is the world's first 6th-generation aircraft. It is not merely a bomber, it is a flying data center. Its anatomy reflects a transition from the physical to the digital. During the Cold War, stealth was about the curtain, a physical barrier of radar-absorbent material and geometry. Today we face a sensor mesh, an interconnected web of digital surveillance. To defeat it, the Raider utilizes digital stealth. Through an open systems architecture, the aircraft's software can be updated in real time, evolving its electronic signature to match the shifting frequencies of enemy radar. Software is now more lethal than hardware. The Raider is designed to be invisible to the low-frequency radars that were supposed to be the stealth killers of the future. It is smaller and leaner than the B-2, a refined shape that defies the laws of physics. The transition from theoretical testing to terrifying reality occurred during a classified simulation in secret. An integrated air defense system, mirroring the most advanced Chinese nodes, was humming with activity. The operators were elite, trained to find the slightest ripple in the electromagnetic spectrum. They saw nothing. For hours they monitored their screens, confident in their impenetrable shield. Only after the simulation ended did the data reveal the truth. A digital ghost had bypassed the entire network, loitered over high-value targets, and exited the zone without once ever triggering a single alert. The enemy command didn't even know a simulation was running. The ghost had arrived, and the world was about to quietly change. The geographical focus shifts now to the humid, contested waters of the South China Sea, where the so-called Dragon's Breath manifests as a dense, overlapping canopy of radar waves and missile batteries. This is the heart of the Chinese anti-access area denial strategy, a wall designed to keep the world at arm's length. For years, the Pentagon watched as these zones grew increasingly lethal, but the B-21 Raider was engineered specifically to shatter this glass ceiling. It acts as the front door breaker, the first asset to cross the invisible line of engagement. Unlike previous bombers that relied solely on passive stealth, the Raider utilizes a sophisticated electronic warfare suite known as the Silent Scream. This capability allows the Ghost to jam enemy signals and manipulate sensor data while remaining entirely undetected. It doesn't just avoid the radar, it deceives the radar into believing the sky is empty, even as the bomber moves through the very center of the search grid. The development of this Ghost began long before the first bolt was tightened at the assembly plant. In the classified digital labs of the aerospace giants, a digital twin of the Raider logged thousands of flight hours in high-fidelity simulations. Every atmospheric variable, every possible radar frequency, and every thermal signature was tested in a virtual environment. This digital scythe allowed engineers to sharpen the aircraft's lethality in the software realm first, perfecting its response to threats that hadn't even been deployed yet. Consequently, when the physical airframe finally took to the skies, it was already a veteran of 10,000 missions. This digital-first approach ensures that the B-21 remains a mothership for the next generation of warfare, collaborative combat aircraft. These autonomous drone swarms fly alongside the Raider, acting as decoys, additional sensor nodes, or kinetic strike assets. This creates a terrifying psychological weight for adversary command structures. They are no longer looking for a single plane. They are facing a distributed, invisible network that can dismantle their entire defense architecture in seconds. Inside the Pentagon's war room, the logic of the Global Strike Command is cold and pragmatic. They view the $70 billion mandate as more than a weapon. It is the ultimate insurance policy for the U.S. nuclear triad. While submarines and silos offer sheer power, the Raider offers a visible presence that can be recalled or redirected, providing a level of diplomatic and strategic flexibility that static missiles cannot match. The moral complexity of such absolute power is discussed in whispers, but the consensus remains firm. To prevent a total war, the US must possess a weapon that makes such a war unthinkable. Traditional interception methods are rendered obsolete by the Raider's high-altitude cruise profile and integrated sensor fusion. A pilot in a fighter could be flying within miles of the Ghost and never see a blip on their glass cockpit, effectively fighting a war against an opponent they cannot perceive. They are hunting a specter that doesn't exist on their screens. The psychological terror of this invisibility is best understood through the classified reports from adversary listening posts and radar rooms. In one redacted intercept, a radar operator's voice betrays a rising sense of panic. He describes a momentary ghosting of the signal, a brief flicker of static that shouldn't be there, a ripple in the digital void that defies his training. He recalibrates his equipment, thinking it's a hardware malfunction or a flock of birds, unaware that a strategic bomber carrying the weight of a nation's will is loitering just 10 miles away, watching his every move through its own advanced apertures. The operator's confusion is the Raider's greatest success. By the time the realization hits that the static is actually a threat, the mission is already over, and the Ghost has vanished back into the vast, silent reaches of the upper atmosphere. The air defense network remains intact, yet it has been utterly bypassed, leaving the adversary to realize that their billion-dollar shields are as transparent as glass. They are left chasing shadows in a sky that they no longer control completely. The silence is absolute. This strategic silence serves a higher purpose than mere tactical surprise. It is the foundation of a new era of geopolitical leverage. By rendering the most sophisticated air defense networks on Earth obsolete, the B-21 Raider forces rivals into a cycle of financial and technological exhaustion known as the invisibility tax. Every ruble and yuan poured into the development of the S-500 or advanced quantum radars is essentially a contribution to a defensive shield that the Ghost has already learned to bypass. The adversary is trapped in a trillion-dollar arms race they cannot win because the goalposts are now made of software, not steel. While the competitor builds massive static installations, the United States simply pushes a code update to the Raider's open mission systems, shifting its digital footprint and resetting the board. This asymmetry is the ultimate guardian of the global status quo, ensuring that the cost of aggression far outweighs any potential gain. It is a cold reality that forces challengers to bleed their treasuries in pursuit of a Ghost they can never touch, effectively bankrupting their strategic ambitions before a single shot is ever fired. Deep within the heart of Missouri, at Whiteman Air Force Base, this high-tech noir reality takes a physical form during the ritualistic night operations. The hangars are cathedrals of classified engineering, bathed in a sterile artificial glow. Here, the logistics of maintaining a fleet of ghosts require a level of precision that borders on the religious. Specialized technicians, their identities obscured, meticulously inspect the raider's composite skin for even the microscopic imperfections that could betray its presence to a high-frequency sensor. The elite pilots who climb into the cockpit are masters of the gray zone. They operate in the thin, cold air between official peace and the total collapse of civilization. Their training involves more than just flight dynamics. It is an education in psychological endurance and the management of absolute power. They are the custodians of a secret that ensures the world keeps turning. They fly missions that officially never happened, crossing borders and loitering over sensitive targets without leaving a single trace in the digital or physical world, returning to the Missouri soil before the rising sun can expose their silhouette. The B-21 Raider has become a permanent fixture in the modern theater of conflict, even if it is rarely seen by human eyes. It is the ultimate deterrent because it removes the adversary's ability to calculate risk accurately. When a commander cannot see the weapon that threatens his most vital assets, his only logical move is restraint. This is the power of the shadow. The $70 billion ghost acts as a silent observer in the South China Sea and a specter over the Baltic, serving as a constant, invisible weight in the minds of those who would challenge the Pax Americana. It is not merely a bomber, it is the final analytical summary of American power. The Raider is the physical manifestation of a strategic will that refuses to be eclipsed by rising giants, acting as a bridge between the physical reality of the Cold War and the digital battlefield of the 21st century. It proves that in an age of total surveillance, the one who remains hidden is the one who truly commands the world. As the dossiers are closed and the war games are archived, the final cold assessment remains unchanged. The B-21 is the ghost in the machine that holds the global order together. It is the final argument in the complex language of international diplomacy, a weapon that exists specifically to ensure it never has to be used. The price of peace is staggering, measured in billions of dollars and years of secret labor. But for the strategic global command, it is a bargain that buys decades of stability. In the silent reaches of the upper atmosphere, the Raider continues its patrol, a technological marvel that thrives in the darkness. It is the guardian of the status quo, the breaker of gates, and the absolute insurance of the nuclear triad. The screen of the global theater remains calm, not because the threats have vanished, but because the shadow is always there, watching, waiting, and perfectly invisible. The price of the shadow is the preservation of the light, a final, classified testament to the necessity of the unseen.